Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another offseason recap. We've got week 12 here. I think it's week 12. It's the week of December 1st because we're in December now. That means we're actually getting pretty close to the season. I'd start to get excited. We got news on 5 different organizations, or at least 5 different teams. So honestly, a pretty slow week. Didn't have to write a bunch of, new announced teams, really condensed. And we've got a little bit to talk about rule changes. If you haven't checked out the video from earlier this week, I definitely recommend doing it. I broke down the announcement that we got right before Thanksgiving that detailed some of the new format that we would see for the first split. I'll talk about some of the things that we found out in terms of the rules later in the video. I've got that down here. But first, we're going to start down in Australia with the Chiefs Esports Club. This is not a team that is signed by the Chiefs Esports Club. I know it. The logo is drawn here, and the logo is drawn here because I do believe that Hntr is still with the Chiefs. But Hntr has officially joined Bananahead and Fiberr. This was theorized based on scrim rumors found by Mathalion. So props to him for finding this out. It's not necessarily been hidden that this was going to be the trio, but they also haven't had anything to really play in, so it hasn't been announced just yet. But it's been made official. Bananahead, Hntr, and Fiberr. Personally, I believe this is going to be the best team out of OCE. I think they have the most talent. If they really do figure out how to click, this squad is going to be dangerous. I'm pretty excited for them. But yeah, as I was mentioning, Hntr still wants to be on the Chiefs Esports Club, and it wouldn't surprise me if the rest of the roster does as well. But the Chiefs themselves, they're a little bit worried about the ecosystem when it comes to orgs and Epic, just like basically every single other organization. So it's TBD whether or not they'll stay in Rocket League. So if they do, I wouldn't be surprised to see them sign the squad. But if they don't, Chiefs is allowing them to explore options. They're not allowing Bananahead and Fiberr because they're not signed to Chiefs, but they're allowing Hntr to explore his options. So I'm hyped to see this team. Hopefully they get a good org. I still hope it's Chiefs because I like the Chiefs. I think they've been great for the scene. And honestly, hearing Brendy talk on the Chalkcast roundtable was really enlightening. So, second, Gentlemates have officially announced their roster. They had a whole live stream, whole announcement video. They got Seikoo, Juicy, and Radosin. We've known for a couple of months now that this was going to end up being the squad, but they haven't ended up playing in anything, so there was no rush to get this out. Did a lot of media, got together for a stream. Along with this announcement, Itachi has officially been released. But during this live stream, it was teased in French, and I'm very American. I don't understand French. I took Spanish in high school, so definitely not really well versed in what anyone was saying on this stream. But as it was broken down by Jens, one of the writers for Shift, and also teased by Achilles, on this stream, it was at least very heavily alluded to that the World Championship for 2025 is going to be happening in Paris, or at the bare minimum, France. This has been an open theory by a lot of the community for a long time. There was a rumor that the first major for the 2024 season was actually supposed to be in Paris, but they couldn't get it figured out in time. So they had it in Copenhagen as well. And I think since then, it has always been a target for Blast to host a major in Paris. And the reasons are obvious. You have Carmine Core, you have Vitality, you have Gentlemates. It makes sense to host a LAN in Paris, and it's frankly long since overdue. I'm glad it's going to be a world championship. Of course, this is not an official announcement just yet, but it's starting to look like there's a lot more fire behind the smoke. So keep an eye on that. And if you're living in France, clear your September because you're not going to want to miss it. Third org that we got to talk about is Dignitas. The organization itself is in an interesting spot when it comes to Rocket League. They have Stizzy, and they were planning on rebuilding around Stizzy, kept Violent Panda as a coach. It was theorized for a while that Stizzy and ApparentlyJack were going to be a duo. We didn't get any official word that was going to be a duo, but granted, a lot of the other duos that we thought were going to be duos aren't duos anymore. Duos have been very confusing this offseason, but a lot of people were thinking that Stizzy and ApparentlyJack were going to be on the same team. They're going to be on the same team. Officially announced that the third they're picking up is Joreuz. So this will see ApparentlyJack and Joreuz reunite. They teamed together back in the 21-22 season under the Dignitas banner, by the way. They were teamed with Scrubkilla before ApparentlyJack moved over to North America. I believe this roster is going to be in North America, especially if they are under the Dignitas banner, because Dignitas wants to compete in North America. So it is 3 Europeans, But yeah, wouldn't surprise me if they're in North America. I think they're a land favorite, or a favorite to make land in North America should this trio stick together. They're exploring their options when it comes to organizations, mainly because Dignitas isn't sure what they want their involvement to be given the current state of the ecosystem. But Dignitas is not out of the conversation. So Violent Panda was able to clear this up. It's like Dignitas isn't, ditching them completely. They're still trying to come to terms with Dignitas, but while they're trying to come to terms, they're not being locked out from talking to other organizations. So I'm hoping it's Dig. Not because I'm necessarily a big Dignitas fan. I don't have anything against them, but I just think it'd be really cool to see ApparentlyJack and Joreuz back under the Dignitas banner competing together again. I think that'd be pretty good nostalgia and a nice full circle moment. Ninja Pyjamas, another European team. That's going to be weird to say. Ninja Pyjamas, who have been in SAM for the past year, are a European team now. They are expected to sign Itachi, Oski, and Nas. I have had this on the board before, and it's getting more and more difficult to draw this Ninja Pyjamas logo. I feel like I did a decent job keeping it actually pretty small this time. But this is, like I said, with Worlds in Paris, there's a lot more fire behind the smoke now. So when it came to this roster of Itachi, Oski, Nas, I think they're definitely top 4 in Europe. I've got them power ranked 3rd, just slightly ahead of this Mates roster. But if you want a land contending team, this is one that you want to sign. There were 2 organizations that were primarily interested in them, that being Ninja Pyjamas and G2. A few weeks ago, it was looking like Ninja Pyjamas was leading that race to get them signed. Now it's looking like that deal is going to be finalized here very soon. So I'm assuming that G2 is just out of this conversation at this point. That doesn't mean that G2 is out of the conversation entirely, but we haven't heard anything from G2 in a while. So the last thing we heard is that they were looking to pick up a European squad. Off the top of my head, I know there's still one more very solid European squad. And this is not a rumor, but personally, I would not hate to see G2 Joyo. So, Team Secret. Jumping down to South America, this is actually probably my favorite move on this board, and one of my favorite moves of the offseason is that they're expected to sign Swiftt. Now, a lot of people know Diaz is like this one's prodigy and, the next Brazilian superstar. And he's moving to North America with Complexity, but Swiftt was Diaz before Diaz was Diaz. So Swiftt isn't a rookie anymore. He had a very solid season under Ninja Pyjamas last year, and he's always been known as like the next up for South America. Apparently he was pretty impressive at the Login Championship. I wasn't able to watch it that day, but based on Belair's Need Boost podcast, go check that out. I'll give him a shout. Sounded like Swiftt did pretty well at the LAN. Honestly, does not surprise me at all. So I was excited to see him. And based on the South American offseason, we weren't really sure how things were going to break down. At that Login Championship, Team Secret played KV1 Mata and SAD. It was a SAD reunion on Team Secret. They ended up getting beat by Swift's squad, actually. That Swiftt squad was Brad Drops and Swiftt. They were able to beat them in the first stage, but then to make the final, it was Swiftt taking them down. But truth be told, if you're going to assemble a squad that's going to contend with Furia, I think these are the 3 players to do it. KV1's always been known as a very solid player on this Team Secret squad. He's been with them for quite a while now. Mata had a really good 2022-23 season. You might remember him from the Boston Major. He had a great series, or at least one great shot against Complexity. That comes to mind a lot. And honestly, he's a very solid player. And then Swiftt would be joining these 2. So this is a clear South America 2 seed for me, especially with Complexity out of the region. I think there will be other squads that could be assembled to try to compete, but at this point, I believe it would be an upset for them to make it to LAN over this Team Secret squad. We have the official RLCS rulebook released, so you can check the RLCS Twitter account. They have the rulebook in several different languages. We got an announcement a couple weeks ago detailing how the broadcasting and how the format was going to work for the first split. This goes into a lot more detail about the entire season. A couple things that I will note. Majors are still going to be Swiss stage. Personally, I'm down for this. The more major matches we get, the better. It will mean it's probably going to be that 16 games on Thursday, 17 games on Friday, where we're just blitzing through it, going super fast. But now that there's actually more days or more matches on Saturday and Sunday, I don't hate that as much because, yeah, it's going to be a Swiss stage for the top 16, narrowing that down to top 8. But then from there, it's going to be AFL. No sign if there's going to be major tiebreakers. I didn't see anything in there. At the World Championship, there was a 3-1 tiebreaker section to determine who went into the upper part of the AFL bracket. I didn't see anything in here that signified that would happen this time. Could change, could just not exist. We'll see as we get closer to the major, to be honest. But that's one thing I would continue to keep an eye on. Worlds is going to be GSL group stage all the way through. So while the majors are your 16-team, 16-team Swiss stage, Worlds is going to be groups. Now, with Worlds, you have a play-in stage, so there's going to be 8 teams in the play-in because 20 teams are going to be invited to Worlds. You'll narrow those 8 teams down to 4 teams, and then they'll join the other 12, so you have 16 teams going into a GSL group stage again. So it's GSL groups into GSL groups into AFL-style format. So if Liquipedia has the brackets drawn up, I'll pull them up. I'm not sure if they do just yet, but hopefully I'll have a good image to depict that. The one thing I will mention as well with GSL groups, there was a little bit of confusion because there's 2 different ways to do this format. One of them is where you have 2 groups of 8, and so that in the lower bracket, you don't get rematches. A couple examples of this are the World Championship in 2022-23. Both those World Championships had it. And then there's also the GSL groups that only have 4 groups of 4. And so it's all double elimination when we're talking about GSL groups. If you lose 2, you're out. If you win 2, you're to the next stage. But the 4 groups of 4 is what we saw at the Esports World Cup, where we saw quite a few rematches in that lower bracket. So, for instance, we saw Gen.G and Team Secret face in round 1. Gen.G beat Secret, so Secret dropped down, won their match against whoever, and then Gen.G lost, so they dropped down to face Team Secret again. So the fact that GSL groups is groups of 8 means we're not going to see rematches like that. Personally, I'm a huge fan of this because I think that, having 4 groups of 4 really bottlenecks the fact that you only get 2 advancing out of each group, and say that you just have one group that has 3 teams that are better. Like, they should all be getting out. So yeah, honestly, not too upset with what I saw with the rulebook. I was a little bit harsh in the reviewing the schedule video because I thought while there were some pros, there were a lot of cons with what they announced. But based on the announcement of, officially releasing the rulebook, I was not made any sour heading into this season. So definitely worth a read if you're into all the statistics, all the numbers, etc. But yeah, that's enough rambling from me. We've got another week of no Rocket League coming up. The FIFA E World Cup is happening probably right now. Maybe it's over. I don't really know what time it starts on Sunday, but unfortunately, my country has been eliminated. I'm a little sad about this. I kind of ran my mouth a bit, so I'll eat that. But yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed. If you want to know more, check out some of my other videos, specifically the one that I made earlier this week about the schedule for 2025 Split 1. And other than that, I will catch you guys next Sunday.